The world of the comic book is the world of the strong, the ruthless, the bluffer, the shrewd deceiver, the torturer, and the thief. In comic books, life is worth nothing. There is no dignity of a human being. Frederick Wortham, Seduction of the Innocent. Kids Love Chains, Todd McFarlane. What's up, everybody? Sparks Comics here. You know what we gotta talk about? We gotta talk about Crossover, Issue 1 from Donny Cates. Before we get to that, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the like button and let me know what you thought of Crossover. Welcome back, everybody. Crossover here. Let's jump into this because I've got some thoughts on this and they may not be popular thoughts. So, first of all, I do want to say cover art across the board is phenomenal. So this, mind-blowing art right here. We got this Ryan Stegman cover. Beautiful, love it. Love this character design, great. We've got that character again over here. I believe this is a Shaw cover. We've got a sketch cover, of course. We have a Trad Moore. I believe this was the 1 in 10, maybe it was 1 in 25, but again, someone else who Donny Cates has worked with, Trad Moore, and Ryan Stegman, so we got our Silver Surfer Black, we've got our Venom artist, we've got Ryan Otley here with this is homage to The Walking Dead. And then I forget who did this art, but awesome cover as well, featuring what's assumed to be the two main characters. So honestly, our pick of covers, going on past that, there are some sketch versions of cover A, B, and C, and those were all fantastic looking, but the cost on those was too high for me to go for, so I stuck with the non-sketch versions of all these covers. Geoff Shaw. Shaw was one of those covers who does art in here. And so I think, cover rating, honestly 9 to 10 out of 10. Excellent. From there, we got to look at the overall story and concept. We have to look at characters, and we have to look at interior art. So, easiest of those to start with is probably the interior art. And the interior art I like. I like the interior art. We've got some great things in here. The whole concept of the story, which we'll get to, but just in brief to tell you something about the art in here is, that there's these comic book characters that have come out of the comic world into real life, and they're having their big summer event fighting the villains. The heroes are fighting the villains and destroying the city in Denver, Colorado. But we see them depicted as if, they're old-time comics, and they got that comic look to them. And so anytime that they pop up, they have that comic look and not the look of these other characters. So I like that they're doing that with this. Overall, there's some parts of the art that's, maybe could have used more details. But overall, I'd say that art's probably, 7 or 8 out of 10. So moving on then to our the story and the concept of the story. I love the concept of the story. So this whole idea that the comic book characters could come blasting out of a comic and, now they're having their summer event happening in the world, and what's going to happen to those people, those regular people that are just there in the city while that's happening. They're people too, but the superheroes are fighting the villains and not watching that collateral damage. So I really love the concept. Now, what actually happened in this first issue doesn't really focus on that. It's what's happening in the world, but it's not what's happening necessarily in this issue. It starts out talking about that, but then we meet our main character. So for me, story concept is like a 10 out of 10 for me. Execution in this issue is probably a 5 out of 10. And that's where I think I'm gonna, people are gonna disagree with me. I don't think it was executed very well in this issue. I think we're going to see it be executed better. I think this is a setup issue, and that's why I'm not liking it that much. I like when things happen with the story. I get a little impatient sometimes with setup. So that's probably why I feel this way about this. And I know that. I know it's not necessarily right. But that's how I feel about the story and the concept. Concept 10 out of 10. Story executions 5 out of 10. We got our art 7, 8 out of 10. Covers 9 to 10 out of 10. So now let's talk about the characters. So our main character, who's featured on some of the covers here and here, and especially Geoff Shaw's cover and Ryan Ottley's cover. Great features of her. Her name is Ellipses Howell, and she goes by Ellie, or L for short. And so, we've got our crossover ... here in the middle, so that's representing her. That's the ellipses. Strange, but I do like the explanation of her name that her mom would give her is, the ellipses is the great unknown. Those 3 little dots, they can become anything. I do also like this accidental, very timely message on the billboard, because Donny Cates has confirmed this was written well before COVID, but this God hates masks thing, which of course is referring to superheroes, but in this day and age, it's very very topical. So we get to see her kind of, she's cosplaying but going to work. She works at a comic shop, and in this world, with all these superheroes really destroying things, and she lives not that far outside of Denver where this is happening, they don't like comics there. They don't like superheroes. They think, God is saying that, we need to repent and that shouldn't be happening. And so there's this religious group that essentially stands outside the comic shop and yells things at them all day. And so then we get to meet one of our other main characters, Otto from the Grotto, maybe. And so he, he's very much a classic comic book collector, and that's all that he sells at his shop. So there's this post-superhero world where there's these propaganda comics, is what he calls them, that are these comics that have been approved for after everything's been happening within the bubble. And so that's all he is willing to sell at his shop, is the old ones. He doesn't want anything to do with these new ones. And so he kind of gets in an argument with someone about bringing those in and trying to sell them to him. But this is probably where I'll stop talking about the plot, because I am talking about the character more. So we do meet Ava, who is our third possibly main character, and is featured on the Trad Moore cover right here. And we know that's her because the style of the art on her. She is from the comic book world. But she's not a superhero. At least that's what it seems like. Yeah, she's just this girl who's in the comic shop and looking for, she doesn't know where she is. She got out of the bubble. and she doesn't know what to do. But her presence scares everybody in the comic shop. People are saying, call the cops, blah, blah, blah. The religious group's like, we'll take this into our own hands. We got one other character that we're going to meet. Let's see if we actually get a name from him. I think we do. Ryan Lowe. And he's trying to prove himself to his religious father. So he does something pretty stupid. But we're seeing some characterization of Ellie, and that she wants to protect this girl. She's just a girl. Doesn't matter that she's from this comic world. She's in their world. She's real as anybody else. So she's a caring person. Otto is very much against it. He's, saying she's a fake. She's not real. Don't put us at risk here. And so what happens is she asks, I'm going to stop there because the rest is going to be spoilers, but I really like Ellie. I think there's a lot of potential from this Ryan guy, because it seems like his actions are only because it's kind of like his father is making him do these certain actions. But I can see him rebelling against that and becoming a good character. Otto just kind of seems like, I don't know, he seems like a interesting guy if you were to meet him at the comic shop. And Ellie seems like a very strong lead character. So character-wise, I'm about an 8. So what really just did it for me was the story. Story execution. The story concept is great, story execution, and not seeing enough of like what's happening in that bubble. Because for me, that's what I thought we were going to be finding out about. I thought we were going to be finding out about that thing that's happening in the bubble, and that's kind of how it was sold to us. So a little disappointed in that. I think we're going to eventually get that though. It's just a matter of when is that going to happen, and are you going to be able to keep me reading this book long enough to see that happen? So I think Donny Cates will make that happen soon enough that I will keep reading it, but it's a little disappointing for a first issue. First issues where you really need to draw people in, and that is what would draw me in. So other things that are cool though in the back here is there's 2 other projects that are Donny Cates is working on in the back here. We see Flood, and we see It Eats What Feeds It, I believe is what this one is. And this one's currently available online somewhere where you can pay as much as you want, which could be 0. And then it's going to be coming out from Image at some point in the future, hopefully relatively soon. Some other interesting things is that Billboard also had a website on it, lowbaptistministry.com. So Ryan Lowe, I'm guessing his father is the minister. That takes you to a merch page, a Donny Cates merch page, which does have some crossover merch on it. So that was pretty cool, like a little Easter egg in there. He likes doing that. We saw Donny Cates do that with Iron Man's phone number in Thor. So I like that he throws in those fun things. And other interesting little things. You see God Country here on the crossover cover. But we also see Flood, so his project that's not even out yet, he's got right there. Redneck, another one of his projects on this cover. A Tomahawk right there. What's this one? Madman? I don't know what that is. I'm not sure what some of these other ones are on here, but you see several of Donny Cates' projects on this cover that Ryan Stegman did, so I can only imagine they had a blast trying to, throw those little things in there. And I'm sure we're going to see more Easter eggs like that in crossover itself. And it'll be interesting to see what superhero characters end up showing up inside the bubble. So that's what I'm looking forward to in this series, is these, Easter egg kind of things. And I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to at least get to probably issue 3. And now if the action doesn't pick up at issue 3, and we don't know what's going on inside that bubble at issue 3, I'm probably going to stop it, and that's it. But I really want to love this story. I think Donny Cates is going to execute it. Issue 1 just wasn't a good first issue for me. So that's my thoughts on Crossover. Overall, looking at the scores, probably puts it at about a 7, maybe a 6.5 out of 10 for first issue. So for me, that's that's an okay issue, and that's kind of how I left reading that book, was just saying, yeah, it was okay. So that's my thoughts on Crossover. You made it to here, please hit that like button, and if you haven't hit subscribe yet, do that now. Hit the little bell button, that'll remind you of future videos, and drop a comment below and let me know what you thought of Crossover, because I know there's a lot of differing opinions on this book, so let's talk about it in the comments. As always, guys, collect what you love. I'll see you next time.